So, hey guys, thank you so much for being on Mastery Session with Espresso Agent. We've got a great guy here to talk to. Thank you so much, Tom Griswold. And what we're going to talk about today is, this thing that people do sometimes is transitioning from careers and all that kind of stuff. So, Tom, thanks for being on. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Yeah. So, we and I told everybody to let everybody know where they're from. So we got people from New Jersey, Snooky's here. We got Hilton Head, South Carolina, Macon, Georgia, which is not too far away from Atlanta. Danielle from Philadelphia. So we've got a lot of agents on. So what I want to talk about to you is tell them a little bit about your career prior to getting involved with real estate. That's interesting.
Okay. Well, I was an accountant for the past 35 or 36 years and went through the process of moving up the ranks and that kind of thing. But it got to a point where things just got to where I just wanted to do something else. And so I'd spent so much time in an office behind a desk, and I decided to finally break out and meet a lot of folks and start doing something completely different. So I decided I wanted to explore the possibility of going into real estate.
What's interesting, you went from one extreme, right, to the other extreme, behind a desk to now having to be out there in front of a lot of people. But, any similarities by any chance with accounting to real estate sales?
I have to admit, I haven't found many. Everybody keeps talking about exploring, knowing people's personalities when you're in real estate, exploring the different types of personalities. And I am constantly being accused of being a particular type of a personality. Lord, it's skipped my mind right now.
Analytical.
And analytical.
There you go.
And I don't know why everybody seems to think I'm such an analytical. But I will admit, whenever I go on a presentation, I get myself very well prepared. I make all kinds of spreadsheets and all kinds of things, and I take them with me. And if I can talk the prospective client into looking at them, I'm love to pull them out and show them all kinds of different spreadsheets and all kinds of data. So I guess I may be a little bit of an analytical.
So this is a session for all you analyticals saying, hey, it's okay. It's okay. You can be a real estate agent and make it. But what's interesting I want to talk about is this transition from a career. This is second career. What went on in your head when you decided to leave? You left that career, and now you're going to another one. What was going through with this transition here? How did that work?
Well, I'll tell you, there are a lot of nights where I sat there and I said, well, I don't know if I'm doing the right thing or not, but I got into it, made my first few sales, and I loved it. And now things are really starting to build. I'm making a lot more connections, meeting a lot more folks, making a lot more calls on clients. And so I love every minute of it. I wish I'd done it 20 years ago.
Isn't it great? And so when you first got in, I mean, obviously you're leaving this job that you had, and for those of you that actually had a full-time job before, it's regimented pretty much, right? You come in, you do the same thing. Now you have to be structured in a different way. I mean, before you just structured in your business, but you had set hours and you went home. I mean, now it's your own thing. Right. What was the difficult part about the transition? What was the hardest thing you had to go through in transitioning, do you think?
Learning how to transition from working for someone else and then working for myself. You're working for someone else, of course, you get a paycheck every 2 weeks or whatever. But also, you come in, you generally have your tasks that you have to do every day, and you have to report up, that type of thing. Right. Now I get up every day and I'm motivated just to get up and come into my office or go out with a client, knowing that everything I do is going to be beneficial to me and my family in a direct way. I won't be the third man down the totem pole type thing.
Now, okay, so now that we have everybody who's on, I don't know how many people we have on, and the people that we'll see in later, we have an accountant. We have someone that knows about how to manage money. So I didn't talk to you about this earlier, but what is the biggest mistake people make with money, do you think?
Getting in over their head. A lot of times people will have credit cards and things like that, and they'll get in over their head. and it just takes them a long time to get out from under that weight and start moving down the road again. I don't know if I've ever told you this or not. Because I am an accountant, I literally reconcile my bank account every day, and so I know exactly how much money I have at any minute of the day. And I'm afraid that people, whenever not the majority, but a lot of people, a lot of young folks get into a situation where they get too far into debt. They don't really think about what they're doing, and they just kind of let things get away from them.
It's so easy to do that, man. I love what you said. So just to get a poll, how many people here reconcile their paycheck? Is it every day you do it? You said every day, right?
Every single day.
Every day. So how many people that are listening right now that's on the chat have reconcile their bank account every day? And you can put yes or no. I just want to get an idea of how many people. Okay, so far our first person was a no, second person a no. Okay, so it looks like we're all in the right place together. No. Okay, now I know we're going to talk about real estate. Look at this. All right, so how can we? How critical is that to our business? I don't know if we have to do it every day, but you gotta be okay with it, right? You gotta not be so afraid of it. And why do you think we are so afraid of doing this?
I'm being afraid of what now?
Of reconciling every day, or at least
it's just one of those things. I'm just that fastidious. I have to do it. I have to know exactly how much money I have from any minute to the next. I use a debit card, which I know you're not supposed to, and so I check it every single day to make certain that the card hasn't been used by somebody else. Somebody hadn't gotten hold of my credit card and that kind of type thing. So I just it's one of those things I got into the habit of doing 20 or 30 years ago, and I just continue to do it.
Which I don't think is a bad, I had an experience with a credit card at 21 and I haven't had a credit card since. And so, I'm cool about a debit card. So now you're in real estate and you come in and now you're managing this business of real estate. Just briefly, give us a couple tips that we can be doing when we get our commission so we don't just spend it. I mean, you went over people's accounts and the habit that people get into that's wrong. And we're going to get into a little bit more about you, but since I got you, I might as well get you right now talking about us, about money. So what do we need to do? One thing that's easy to do to keep us on the right track.
When you get your commission, make certain that you break out a portion of it to be paid in taxes. In my situation, I have multiple bank accounts set up. And so I have a bank account set up that I use on a daily basis. I have a bank account set up that I use to track my funds that are going to be paid to the government every year. I have another bank account set up for business expenses, that type of thing. So if I were starting out and I got my first commission, you have to remember, even though you've got all this money in your pocket, it doesn't all necessarily belong to you. A portion of it does belong to the government. So you have to make certain that 12 months from now, when you have to make that payment, that you've got it. So put it in a separate bank account and just forget about it.
What percent of the commission check do you think we should be putting away?
Every time I get a check, I put 30% away.
Okay.
At year end, I might have a little bit too much in there, and that's a little bonus back to me. But I've put it aside. I've saved for it. And I've got it there in case I need it.
So listen, guys, who's ever on right now, this is your chance to get free accounting consultation to talk to you right now. So put your questions in and I'll ask Tom the questions as we're talking about real estate. So this is good. This is good advice. And I see it when I talk to real estate agents and see how their finances are. We extend ourselves. We think everything is going to be great for a long time. So putting reserves back makes sense. So now you're in the business of real estate. You left that. You're doing some really good business practices inside your business. Now you got to find business, which is a little bit different than when you were inside the other business. So how did you start off? What did you do to start building your business up?
Well, I'll be quite frank with you. When I first started, everybody says, call your sphere, call your sphere, call your sphere. And I have to admit, I'm a little bit older. I'm over 25. I'll put it that way.
Okay.
I went to call my sphere, and all my closest friends and my business associates are at a point right now. They've got their houses. They've basically paid down their mortgages. They're working now towards retiring, that type thing. And so when you call them to ask them if they're going to sell their house, they said, yeah, maybe 5 or 10 years from now, maybe 5 or 6 years ago, or no, they're going to tote me out in a box, that type of thing. So I got to think, well, what else can I do? I am connected on LinkedIn. I've got about 15,000 connections on LinkedIn. Mm-hmm. So I started calling my LinkedIn connections and just introducing myself, letting them know that I had changed for careers and I was a realtor now. And I made several connections that way. I've sold, I think it's about 8 or 9 houses to people that are on LinkedIn. And then, but that is kind of sparse. That's not necessarily the best way to do it. So what I do now, each and every day, literally do it all day long, is I'm on the telephones calling people that are expired and withdrawn. I'll admit the FSBOs are not my favorite thing in the world, but I do that. But I primarily call expireds and withdrawns every single day, and I get appointments that way. I've got an appointment yesterday, and right now with the market as hot as it is here in Atlanta, people are really looking for houses, but there aren't a lot to be had. So you just have to keep calling, looking for people that are wanting to sell their house. And luckily, as this year is moving along, I've made quite a few appointments, and so I'm meeting a lot of folks.
Yeah, what's so cool to see, leaving that career. It must be a real excitement to have more control over your destiny, even though it is challenging in making the calls. But the fact that you can now meet new people, get out of the mundane office situation. So now, as being someone who's more analytical, I think you bring something to the table that they don't see from other people. So do you bring in a little bit of what you've done in the past to help people feel a little at ease as far as the finances? How do you bring that in?
Oh, yeah, that's really helped me immensely. As a matter of fact, I had a meeting with a couple, it's been about 2 weeks ago, that they had a lot of questions. They had their home on the market back before the beginning of the year, and it didn't sell for one reason or another. And so they had a lot of questions, and I sat down with them, spent about an hour with them, and they were just hitting me one right after another with all kinds of questions. And so I just let them keep coming. I answered all their questions at the end of the interview. I didn't, unfortunately, I have not gotten them to sign yet because they want to wait until deeper into the spring, and they had a lot of things they had to do to their house. I ranked them all. I had them rank me, like you said, on a scale of 1 to 10. I was definitely a 10. They were so happy that I showed up. They're definitely going to call me back. We'll wait and see. I'm trying to stay in touch with them, but hopefully in about a month or two, we'll get them signed and we'll get that house sold.
What are some questions or some things that we should know that normally most agents don't know about, something about the financing that we could bring in to give us more influence and authority? Because there are some specific questions they must ask you that maybe we should know answers to, because maybe we're not have that kind of background that you have, but we should kind of know that to help us get through this process with someone.
One thing that I do, and I don't know if it's so much of a financial thing or not, but one question one point I always bring up when I'm talking to clients is, I want them to know how their house compares with others in the neighborhood and the adjoining areas on a price per square foot basis. A lot of times they look at a home, they say, oh, well, everything in the neighborhood's selling for $400,000. And I was talking to a couple the other night, their house was the smallest in the neighborhood. And I kept trying to let them know, yeah, your house is gorgeous. I said, but it's just nowhere near on the same scale as theirs. And I got down to the basics. I said, let's just look at how much the price per square foot is. Here the house is 3,000 square foot. Yours only 1,500. I said, it does make a difference. A person's not going to pay $400,000 for a 1,500 square foot home in this neighborhood. It just doesn't happen. And I'm still working with them, but they were disappointed. But I think it's going to work out.
I love the price per square foot. Hey, and for those of you that actually do that, does anybody do price per square foot analysis when you're doing CMAs? I'm amazed how many people don't do that. And it's such an easy way of understanding it. You work so hard to prospect for sale by owners and expireds. You need to sound different than everybody else that's coming in. And it's still amazing to me how many people don't talk. So that's one, price per square foot. What other questions that they have that you answered them that they like? The young couple that you're talking to?
Well, I do get questions about, well, what are of course, the finance rates, that type thing, how long they're going to have to be in their mortgage, how long it'll take to pay it down, that type thing. And I keep letting them know that my first house, when I bought my first house, my wife and I, my first house, my first mortgage was 12.5%. And nowadays you can get them for 2.5%, 2%, that type of thing. And it's just amazing how much more house you can buy now for the same kind of money.
Yeah.
And I try to impress upon them, to take advantage of the interest rates while they're so low, and so they can really get into a house a lot cheaper, and they can afford a lot more, safely.
Do you think that people understand the financial advantages of owning really well? I mean, I don't know if people really understand that. Do you ever talk about that to people that, what is the financial advantage? I know you own the house, but do they really understand what that is?
Yes, generally they do. I always try to make sure that they know that, that buying a house is more than likely the largest investment they're going to make. And it's the one best way in the world to build wealth. I said, if you're in a home, you're paying for it every month, and every month you make a payment, you own a little bit more of the home, and that, that's more money in your pocket. If you rent, it's like putting money in a canoe and sending it on downstream. It's gone forever, But if you buy a home, you can, every monthly payment, you're buying a little bit more of it, making a little more investment. It's going back into your pocket. So that's one of the things that people really like to hear. And then also I like to stress to them, that even though you're making $1,000 payment, whatever it is every month, a portion of that goes paid interest, and you can deduct that on your taxes. And that's another tremendous benefit of owning your own home.
Do you ever have to go over that with them and what it would be for a year? Because I think we're missing two things. I think we forget about the tax advantages and the savings over the course of 5 years, because we missed that explanation. And I know everybody wants to buy emotionally, but the ones that are renting right now. The other thing too is the American dream is lost a little bit. I mean, this whole thing of being able to sit in your own home, paint your own walls, do a fire pit in the backyard, and do it yourself without having to worry about a landlord telling you not to do it. That whole emotional side too. So you got the analytical, the savings per month, and over a course of so much, how much you save, and then the emotional side of it. So now let's talk about how you stay focused on the task, because you don't have a boss. You're the boss of Tom, which is a scary thing sometimes, right? You got to boss yourself. How do you stay focused on the plan? Because monetarily what this could do for you, but what do you do to stay focused?
Well, I'm a little bit different than other folks. It's when I've always had a personal drive to work very hard. When I was an accountant, I would go to work every morning about 5 to 6 o'clock in the morning. And on average, I get home about 7 or 8 o'clock every night. But there were some nights I'd look up from my desk, and I looked over there, it's 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. I'd worked all day long and had worked all night, didn't even realize it. So that's the kind of person I am. But on a daily basis, I get up every single day. Even though with Corona and all that kind of thing, I'm working out of the house. I get up every single day, take my shower, come in my office, get ready, get started. And we have our team meeting every morning at 8:30. We talk about the day's events, what's going on, and then I get going at 8 o'clock. Or 8:30, I start making calls. And I call until 12:30, 1 o'clock every single day. I take a break, go downstairs, eat lunch, and I come back and I start calling again in the afternoons. And it's just my way of doing things. I can't just sit around and do nothing. I have to be working. So it's one of those things I know the benefits, and I know the rewards that are coming.
Yeah, and that's interesting. Structure is important to you, right?
Very much so.
Yeah. So if you didn't have that structure, which I think a lot of agents do not have structure. I mean, they say they do, but what you're doing and what you learn from your corporate side is you got to have structure. How important do you think structure is for success in this business?
Absolutely. You've got to have structure. You have to have an internal desire to see what has to be done, know how to do it, and then actually eventually get there. You have to have it, otherwise you're going to sit there. And of course, they're going to be the people who have the occasional $1 million sale where they make they make the 6-figure income all in one time. But those don't come around every day.
Right.
I mean, those come around just very infrequently, and so you have to get up every day. You have to know what it takes to be successful, and you have to go out there and do it.
What other sources are you calling?
Like I said, I concentrate on expireds and withdrawals. Like I said, I do call at FSBOs. I don't enjoy it. I had one cuss me out this morning, but it's one of those.
To the party.
I know. So, it's one of those things. I don't enjoy it, but I do it. I know it has to be done because, like they're the ones that are wanting to sell their homes. They're out there. They're wanting to do it. So, just it doesn't hurt to call them up and talk to them for a while.
How long did it take you to transition? I mean, to get better at this? I mean, there's a process, right? You first you're afraid to make the call. You make the call. You mess up a little bit. People, like you said, hang up on you and say these fun words. And so, how do you get through that?
It's part of the job. I mean, it really is. It's just one of those things you have to get through. And it's no big deal. Somebody says, if somebody hangs up on you, no big deal. You just call the next one. No, you can't take it seriously. Just keep going. I tell you what, it's a blast for me whenever I have somebody that I have a conversation for 5 to 10 minutes, and then I get an appointment with them. When I get finished with it, the first thing I do is get back on Zoom and I get in touch with my buddy and say, ring the bell, man. I mean, tell you what, I got an appointment. I've got 2 tomorrow, as a matter of fact. So I'm really excited about tomorrow.
2 from expireds?
Yeah, both. One is an expired and one was a withdrawn. And the one that was withdrawn, I contacted him 6 months ago. So I've just been nurturing him, just calling him up and trying to get with him. And finally, he said, yeah, come on out. So.
All right. So those are really key things. But I want to go back to sticking with it, how important that is. But with the expired and the calls you're making, when people tell me that, or maybe in Atlanta too, hey, we don't have that many expireds, or expireds don't work. I mean, what do you say about that? I mean, you could be really negative about everything right now, right? But you're sticking with it.
Oh yeah, I stick with it. I've had a lot of success with it. In Atlanta. I guess we get average 10 to 20 expires and withdrawals every day, and then so I call them right off the bat, and then after that I'll call the ones from the prior day. I generally will call the same numbers 5 or 6 days in a row. And, then once I get done with that, I call old expireds. I call them that have been open since last June, last May, that type of thing. The appointment I have tomorrow, the first one I have tomorrow is a lady whose house expired last August. And so she was waiting to see what was going to happen. The market, she was waiting to see what was going to happen with the market. She wanted to wait until springtime. So I got it. I called her again. Just like I said, I just kept following up with her, and I finally got her to agree to talk with me.
So, so you're patient. I mean, you're patient with it. Sometimes people forget. So tell me about how you're following up. I mean, what system do you have to trigger yourself to make that call later on? Because I see people dropping it. I know that we have systems inside of Espresso. You could use it, but you can have all these systems and you're not looking, you're not going to call them back. But you just said there were 2 situations that you called back on and you got a positive.
That's right.
So, and that was 6 months?
Yeah.
So how many times did you talk to him between the time you first called him to the 6 months?
2 or 3 times. I have all my accounts set up in my system to call at least once every 1 to 2 months. And some I'll call every couple of weeks, that type of thing, just depending on where they are, the conversations that we have. Some of them, I've got a young man right now that I've been talking to him now since last spring sometime. And it just so happens, I didn't realize it, but I was going through old expireds, calling numbers, and I was just calling and calling and calling. And I called him. And when I got him on the phone, I said, oh, hey, how you doing? This is Tom, blah, blah, blah. And I said, I'd love to talk to you about your house. You think we can possibly get together? And he said, well, I'll be quite honest with you. There's a fellow I've been talking to for the past several months, and I think I'm going to give the listing to him. I said, oh, really? Well, what company is he with? He said, Keller Williams. I said, Keller Williams? I'll be darned. I said, I work for Keller Williams too. I said, what's his name? Maybe I know him. And he said, well, it's Tom Griswold. I said, oh my God, that's me. I said, I said, I apologize. I didn't realize I was calling some of my old friends, that type of thing. He said, oh, don't worry about it. He said, at least it proves that you're working.
Yeah, yeah. What threw me off is when he said young man. That's
Young, good-looking man.
Yeah, young, good guy. I says young, good-looking guy. That really. Well, that's me. Hey, that's great. So, and let's talk about the first initial thing you say, so we can help people in here. Peggy's looking for role play partners. Don't forget, guys, if you have any questions, first of all, please don't play like a real estate agent. Ask questions. Don't hide. This is your opportunity to either pick up one nugget, two nuggets that will help your business. So don't be shy here. So if you have a question, bring it on up. There's not a bad question. So let's talk about the initial thing you say to people when you make that call, because that's critical. If you get a little nervous and then you dial that number, what are you saying to keep them on the phone?
Well, something I learned from you, as a matter of fact. You told me I needed to start to embrace my phone calls and become an actor. And so I started doing that a few weeks ago. I've had a lot of success. So I call up and said, hi, I'm not certain if you can help me or not, but I was calling about the home on Main Street. Is that still available? And so I kind of add that, I'm looking at a report here. Is it still available? And they'll say, well, yeah, it's still available. I say, oh, really? I'm just a little confused because I'm looking at a report that says the listing expired. Did you know that? And they'll say, well, no, I didn't. Matter of fact, I've got a house on the market right now. That's exactly how I met them. I used that exact line, and they said, no, we didn't know it had expired. I said, and then it just led into the conversation of what is old realtor was doing.
You got that Atlanta Southern thing working, which actually works. But let explain to them what that means for you, because you're coming, Mr. Joe Analytical is being Mr. Joe Actor guy. So tell me, what did that mean to you? That whole actor thing, to be able to get through.
I have to not be so stiff. Portray myself as somebody who's truly interested, who's calling for a reason. When I act, as I put it, I just kind of change the way I use the phrase. Is that still available?
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm kind of confused here, and I'm wondering if your home is still on the market, that type of thing. And so I get a lot of people that come back with a question with me, and they say, "Well, yeah, it's still available. Why are you asking that?"
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. And you know what? When people jump into, if you guys are on the Monday morning launch with me, I talk about various books, and Tom is probably talking a little bit more about this too. This book right here, if you haven't bought it, The Alter Ego Effect. This gentleman, I'll put it up so you can see. This is written by Todd Herman. The Alter Ego, it helps you to transform, because really whatever personality style it is not, you could be any personality style, it doesn't make a difference, but you have to be in the field of play. And Todd Herman actually coached and trained actors, speakers, or really athletes also, how to get into the field of play. Because you notice that some, Tom, I know that you are not normally like that. You're a thinker. You're the guy that helps us save our money and not make mistakes and find the mistakes. And then now you're in this role, and this role that you're in is the field of play that you have to be in to close. So has that helped you in also closing? Not just being on the phone, because you're really closing for them to like you. What about in person? How does it help you?
Well, I have to admit that when I'm in front of people, I don't get nervous. At my last position where I had a very nice job. I'll put it that way. And so I was dealing with people on a daily basis. I had two different accounting centers around, one in Atlanta and one out in Dallas that I had to deal with on a daily basis. So dealing with people, I've always had that ability, or else I've learned it over time. But one thing now, what I'm doing now is I'm being much more expressive. I've come out of my shell. I've learned how to communicate a little bit better with people, and on a more relaxed basis. I'm not being just strictly business, and so that's one of the things I really enjoy about the job, is because it's enabled me to explore a side of me that I didn't necessarily know I had.
Yeah, it's so interesting. Someone said, which is the best personality to relate to the most people so we can act it out? Okay, so it's not the fact that you've got to be a certain personality, is that you determine what that person is over the phone or in person, and you adjust yours to theirs.
I try
Because
to,
you know that,
yes.
Tom, right, Tom?
I try to, yes, definitely. When I go into a person as a D personality, I keep it very much business, you know, and I know that they're short and sweet, and I'm short and sweet. If I get somebody in front of somebody who's more expressive, you know, I try to spend a little more time joking with them, that type thing. So
So
yeah,
so what you're saying, okay, so you adjust.
uh,
So someone says, so we need to switch between types. Yes. Okay, so I gave you a book to teach you how to, again, there's so many books out there, but I use these as textbooks, not as, hey, this is a new flavor of the month. This is to help you to transform. This is to help you to understand the personality styles. And I bet you Tom has one too.
got it right here.
There it is. You can't see it because you got, yeah, versatility selling. So, guys, this book right here, someone was teaching some of this to me about 15, 18 years ago. I thought that person was the smartest person in the world. Didn't know that it all came from this book. And this book was out. But it's very important that you have this, because if you don't understand that there's basically four styles that are out there, you don't know how to adjust. So in other words, you were saying, someone said here, expressive, okay? An expressive person talks a lot, but they do have certain fears. So and certain ways that you have to ask them questions. Now, if this is not going to happen, but if Tom was totally expressive and the person he's talking to was totally expressive, you might as well hang out for a long time, because that conversation will end 5 hours later. So Tom, who is faking it, acting, he could act like an expressive, but I know inside of him he wants, can we get this thing over with?
Oh yeah, I'm sitting there thumping my watch.
You're going, I love this. Good thing. Huh? So anyway, so what you need to do, yeah, guys, great. Go to Heart Order. It's a great book. Here's what I understand that's not happening in real estate today, or basically in general in sales. We are not studying enough, right? And what I know about Tom, he's been on our Mondays. He studies a lot. Okay, I mean, he actually understands his weaknesses and his strengths, and then I got to give you credit, is that you actually are adding things I think every week or so. You're adding something new to your technique to get better, man. That's all we're asking. How important is that to
Oh, very
continue to
important. I mean,
grow?
you have to grow. You have to. Every day is a learning experience. Some days I get up, I have a great day, and I'll make 3 or 4 contacts, that kind of thing. I have great conversation, get an appointment. The other days I don't have much, but at least I've learned from that. Like I said, just learning how to act, that's only come to me the past month or two. Up until then, I was very dry. Hey, if it made financial sense, would you do that? But now it's, hey, if it made financial sense, would you move your time frame up? What do you think about that? And that way they I don't know, the responses are just different. I can't explain it. It's just they seem to be different.
Well, you're adjusting your personality to the situation, because if there's another analytical on the other side, hey man, this is a party. You guys could do that thing. Now you're stretching. What percent of growth you think you've had personally since you've left the other career, do you think, in changing? I mean, what was it, 10%, 20%? Well, how much growth do you think you've had since leaving that other career?
Well, it depends on how we define growth. I think uh, personally, 50 to 60%. Professional, well, not professionally, but I think my dealings with people, I've always been with close friends of mine. I'm very open, that type of thing. But I think just on a regular basis, meeting people at the grocery store, I'll strike up a conversation with just about anybody now. It doesn't make any difference.
That's great.
I just I've come out of my shell. It's amazing. I have to say at least 50 or 60%.
And that's huge, because when you left, how old were you when you left your job?
It's been 4 years now.
Okay, so 4 years. Okay, so you were, just like me. I mean, we're in our 60s. You left the job, and it's harder to change. I mean, I got to give you credit. The older we get, it's harder to change who we are. And 50% is a lot.
Oh yeah, I have to admit, I'm kind of amazed at myself at times.
That
I
is
really
such a cool thing, man. It's an amazing thing, and I got to let everybody know that if you don't change and keep moving forward, first of all, the train has left the station. Okay, guys, the real estate industry is changing. You know, the tools that we have at Espresso to help you, you got to use fully and learn as much as you can about personality, so that when you're communicating, it's amazing. So let's talk about, as you change, what are you working on to get better? What are you trying to fine tune right now to get better?
mm.
Because I know that's a,
I think what I really need to work on is, because you're supposed to have at least a 50% return on each of your meetings. Mine right now lower than that, I'll admit.
Mhm.
My skills, I need to increase my abilities to close. I know that that's where my weakness is at this point, and I need to work harder at that. Closing 5 times, even when I'm on the phone this morning, I was counting. I didn't have a single one that closed at 5. I closed 5 times, but I had several that went 3 to 4. And so I need to do that more when I'm face to face with people. I tend to say, okay, well, I'll talk to you next week. That time, and tuck my tail and run. That
Yeah,
type.
yeah. Which
And
is not really good. But you know that we know that 90% of your competition is gone approximately if you continue to close past the fifth no. Most people, no, I don't want to do it. Okay, call me later, what you just said. So it's not that we say sign the contract, sign the contract, sign the contract 5 times, is that the conversation has different things that go on with it to hit back to that same topic. And that takes some skill. It's not about trying to be pushy, and I don't think that's not your style either.
uh,
But what's so cool about your style, because you've got a really relaxed tone, is that you could probably be extremely powerful. Not even probably, you can be extremely powerful by coming up with those 4 methods. So when you're at an appointment and I should be closing a little bit more. What happens there? What are you doing to keep pushing yourself? Do you have anything that you're doing at the appointment to make you close more?
I wish I knew. Like I said, that's one of the things I'm having to work on. But right now, the conversations go so well. I have great conversations. People go through the entire presentation. Your presentation, by the way, is spectacular.
Thank you.
I go through the entire presentation. I sit down with them, and we have a great conversation, and then it just ends. And I'm only hitting about 50% of my presentations, and I'm getting the contract, and it's got to be better. I need to be in 75, 80%.
Yeah. So let's go with the numbers, guys. Everybody that's listening here, and those of you that are still on with us, you should have greater than 50% conversion on your appointments, right? So if you have 50 or less, there's obviously things you got to work on. All right. No doubt about it. One of the things that I think, Tom, one of the things that we can do, if you have a yellow pad, as you're talking to someone, you're just doing a couple of notches there. Okay, I did 2, and you're looking down your book, you go, okay, and you got 2 down. And if you try it again, it's 3. I mean, it's a good way of just simple tracking yourself. The other thing too is having to write out things, writing out the objection handlers. We're missing that part of our brain that no longer is being developed because we're typing all the time. You do need to write out things, because writing out things touches and interacts with a part of the brain that no longer is being used as much. It's like we're doing audio books. First of all, these 2 books here, out of both of these books, you could probably do well with audio on the alter ego. I'm not a fan of audiobooks, but this one you definitely do not want to have as an audiobook. This is a textbook. I'm not a big fan. You can see I've got all kinds of little tags in it because I go back. I forget, and I want to go back and making sure that I tell people the right things. So it's very important that you stimulate that other side of the brain to do this. So tell me this, as we get into this part of the marketplace, we're still in the beginning of it. What do you do to motivate yourself to continue to keep this thing moving forward and staying focused? Is there anything particular that you're doing to motivate yourself to stay on your target?
Well, yeah, my bank account. I keep looking at it and say I wanted a lot.
There's the accountant in you.
I wanted a lot bigger than that. That's one motivation. My second motivation is my family. Always, I want them to be proud of me. That's one of the things that been my driving force my entire life. Is I wanted my family to be proud of me. And so my third motivation is just that whenever I get a good response, it just fires me up, and okay, let's do it again. Let's do it again. Let's do it again.
Yeah, that is such a cool thing. And I could see the excitement back, coming into a second career and the excitement that you have in it. Okay. So before we leave, if anybody has an accounting question, better ask it now, because you're going to be paying big bucks for someone else down the road. So I want to ask you a couple of accounting questions. First of all, how should we track what should we be tracking as far as the finances? I mean, we know we got to check our bank account. Do you have an Excel spreadsheet? Did you track your commissions? What do you do?
I'll tell you one. This is how simple it is. You can't see it on my screen.
Right.
Every dime every dime I spend in my business, I take the receipt and I put it in the book. And then at year end, whenever I'm doing my taxes, I just go through the book, flip through it, and just add everything up, what I've spent, what it was for. It's like I said, it's a very simple method. The next thing is just having a separate account for expenses. Make sure that you track your expenses through that account. Spend just the money that you have. Don't spend up more than you've got. Then also put the money aside to pay your taxes. Lord knows you don't want the tax man after you.
Yeah. And do you have a separate organization, a separate business structure, corporation?
I'm going to get yelled at for this, but no, I don't. I used to have some rental properties, and I had a subchapter S set up for that. I know exactly what I'm doing. I can track myself, and if I do anything illegal, I know that I can do it. I know what's legal and what's not.
Yeah, I think it's very important that we have a separate business account set up structure, because you're protecting your family. Back to protecting family, you're putting a firewall up. The other thing I want to ask you, I don't know if you know the answer here, and this is kind of a controversial question: cars, lease or buy?
Buy. I despise leases. I mean, I see no purpose in it. I've got a brother-in-law. He's an eye doctor. He makes a bunch of money. He leases all his cars, and he gets a new car every year or every 2 years. I'm not that kind of person. I buy a car and I'll drive it till the wheels fall off. But I don't like the idea of leasing. I'd rather own everything I've got.
Right. And the tax advantages are basically the same.
I mean, they're not there anymore.
Yeah.
Not unless you're a large company and you've got a reason to have it. I mean, on an individual basis, I don't see the benefits.
Good. I'm glad you said that, because I'm the same way, man. I did that once years ago, and I will never do that again. All right. So how can people get a hold of you, Tom? And if there are any questions about, maybe they want to have an accounting question about real estate, maybe they want to talk about transitioning, what's the best place, what number and what email?
Send me an email to tom@Lemoyne Team, LEMOINE team.com, and then tom.griswold@kw.com. I've got 2 emails, and then my phone number is 678-428-1659. Feel free to give me a call anytime.
There you go, man. We got somebody in the house that knows about accounting. So, Tom, man, this is great. You did a great job for an expressive person. I mean, I'm just kidding. But you know what? It's good job, man. Thank you so much for being on, guys. See me on Monday. We got a big training going on Monday on Monday morning launches. So thanks for being on. We'll see you then. Thanks. Bye-bye. See you, Tom.